There's an old Irish saying that on St Patrick's Day, everyone is a little bit Irish. It's true. Many countries claim St Patrick as their own. One of the strongest claimants to Patrick's birthplace is just across the water from Ireland, here in Scotland, at Dumbarton Rock.
Dumbarton Rock here is believed to be the oldest Christian settlement in the UK. It is also believed that St Patrick was born here around the year 386 AD. However, his birthplace is highly debatable, and many suggest he may have been born in Wales or the north coast of England. Patrick is believed to have picked up his Christian faith from the Romans, whom his father worked for, around this area on the Antonine Wall.
So where does Ireland come into this story? When young Patrick was around 16 years of age, he was abducted from the Scottish coastline and taken as a slave to Ireland, the land where his name would become known. Join us on this journey as we explore the life of this great Irish saint.
We're now leaving the coast of Scotland and Dumbarton behind us.
This is probably the route that St Patrick took at the age of 16 when he was captured by pirates.
We're here today in the town of Downpatrick, where St Patrick is said to be buried behind me here in the Anglican Church. However, today we're here at St Patrick's, the Catholic Church, and we're going to speak to Father John Murray.
You're very welcome. This is the Church of St Patrick in the town of Downpatrick, right in the heart of County Down. And basically the first story is of Patrick being captured by pirates, but he came around the year 14, 15 or 16. He was a teenager, captured. I always think that his story is so relevant today when you have so many slaves, modern slaves and refugees in the world.
He was somebody who came to our shores here in Ireland in slavery, but through the experience of slavery he found God in his life. He began to develop a very close relationship with God, and that of course was really the paradigm through which he saw his life as somebody who had been enslaved to sin but who was saved by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
I recently read St Patrick's Confessio, which made me realise just how relevant a lot of his experience, I think, young people of all ages, live through in the present age. You know, he wasn't always understood. He had a tough time.
And Patrick had, in his teens, a very easy, relaxed, maybe even dismissive attitude to his faith. And something extraordinary happened.
What happened to Patrick was that he found, or should I say refound, his faith. He was like many young people. They kick against the goad, they say there's no God, whatever. And then they find God in the difficulties of their lives. And that's what happened to Patrick. He talks in his Confessions, which is his great personal testimony about finding God, about praying 100 times a day and night. But after 6 years, anyway, he decided to escape. He found a boat and it brought him back to his father and mother in Britain. And then he tells us that he had a dream and he heard the voice of the Irish, and it said, "Holy boy, holy youth, come back and walk among us again." And that's portrayed in our beautiful mosaic and also our stained glass window here in the transept. But he didn't come back immediately. He went to France and he studied under Saint Germanus of Auxerre. And he came back not just as a priest but as a bishop, and landed at Saul, which is a small inlet just off the Strangford Lough, about 4 miles from here.
On top of Sleeve Hill, where I'm standing just now, stands a massive statue of St Patrick erected in 1932. Behind me down there you can see the Slaney River, where as a bishop St Patrick returned to found his first church along the mouth of the river at Saul.
I think our parish was founded Then most parishes in Ireland claim they were founded by St. Patrick, but apparently he did. He founded one of our old churches by firing a spear from a hill, and we're not that far from Downpatrick where he's buried, so there is a good chance that he passed through.
We've arrived here, just outside Downpatrick, in the town of Saul. Saul is where St. Patrick built the first Christian church in this land in the year 432 AD.
The present church here is no longer a Catholic church and dates from the year 1933. This site, however, has a long and distinguished history. It's very visible and noticeable on surrounding landscapes, as you can see by its distinguishable pointed tall tower. And it's also been over the years an abbey to St. Patrick, which was sacked by the Danes in the 9th century.
So for the next 30 years, what we know is that Patrick went up and down the length and breadth of Ireland, baptising, confirming, ordaining priests, and a whole, if you like, wave of new evangelisation took place in those years.
We've arrived here in the city of Armagh, where St. Patrick was the first bishop. There are both the Catholic Cathedral and the Protestant Cathedral, both named after him.
We're here to find out more about the life of St. Patrick, and we thought it would be best to speak to his successor, the Archbishop and Primate of all Ireland, Eamon Martin.
So he became a great missionary with tremendous courage, who saw himself as a pioneer going out to the ends of the earth, as he described it, because Ireland at that time literally was believed to be the end of the earth. So in some way he saw himself as fulfilling the great mandate that Jesus gave his disciples: go out to all the nations and bring the good news.
There is that strong tradition about the shamrock. It doesn't come out of the confession. The thing that comes out of the confession is he had a really vivid and powerful belief in the Blessed Trinity. It's jumping out of it there. He wants to speak about God the Father and his Son Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit, who was very, very real for Patrick. And there is the tradition that he used the shamrock to present that to the Irish, the three and the one.
In our mosaics, what you see is Patrick confronting the Druids.
Once he arrived in Ireland, St. Patrick's preaching of Christianity would come into direct conflict with the High Kings of Ireland seated here at the Hill of Tara. The High Kings were pagans and therefore would not tolerate Patrick's Christianity.
It was here on the Hill of Tara that the High King of Ireland forbade the lighting of any fires until the pagan festival of Ostara, where the great bonfire would be lit on this very site.
But the High King of Ireland, Lahare, had a big surprise in store for him. St. Patrick boldly lit a paschal fire on the Hill of Slane, which could be seen from the Hill of Tara, the seat of the Kings of Ireland. But there was a happy outcome. Erc, the High Priest of St. Patrick, converted to Christianity, and the High King allowed the Christian religion to be spread, but he himself did not convert.
One of the mosaics that you'll see is also the wonderful story, slightly amusing, of King Angus of Munster, who was baptised. Patrick inadvertently put his crow's ear into the man's foot. He didn't notice. Afterwards, people said to Angus, "Why did you not complain?" And he said, "Oh, I thought it was part of the ceremony." So that is portrayed here. And then the final mosaic that you'll see is Patrick receiving Viaticum, his last Holy Communion, from his great friend Tassac, who was also a bishop of the time.
So we've came to Downpatrick, outside the St. Patrick Centre behind us, which is the only dedicated centre and museum to the life of St. Patrick, based on his confessions. And up at the hill, just beyond, is the burial place of St. Patrick himself. And we're going to go up the hill and see that site.
The story, it is very hard to verify these things. The story is that he wanted to be buried. He certainly lived in this area, and he was brought in a cart. And the legend is that wherever the oxen stopped, that was where he was to be buried. And the legend is that that happened on the hill where his tomb is today. For many centuries, people used to come and, as tourists and pilgrims do, take a little pebble or a handful of soil. And so the authorities in 1920 actually covered over the burial hole and put a huge marble or granite stone on top of it. So it's very tastefully done now, but it does prevent pilgrims taking anything from the grave. How do we verify it? It's only sacred tradition, pious memory, centuries of practice. I suppose people have been coming to this hill for all these many years.
And the popularity of celebrating the feast of St. Patrick has grown massively in recent years, with many people from nations of the Irish diaspora, such as the USA and Australia, returning to Ireland to witness the numerous parades and festivals across every town and city in the country.
You know, St. Patrick is extraordinarily revered and important here in the Catholic family of the Archdiocese of New York, indeed among all of the United States.
St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland. He wasn't from here, but he had the Irish in his heart. He had Ireland in his heart, and I, in some ways, kind of feel the same way. I'm not from here, but my blood is from here, and this island will call to you. It really it beckons you to come back. It really holds on to you, and even though you return to your home, go back to the States. For me, the memories I make here will last a lifetime.
Here in the United States, we don't dwell too much, unfortunately, on what I term this first level of understanding and appreciating the historical figure of Patrick. For us, St. Patrick has become an icon of the Irish, and he has become the celebrated patron of the people of Ireland who have made this country great.
We have the parades, the inter-church parades, and they have floats, and we have Irish dancers, and then all around the town you have dancers. It's all on a leaflet and you can choose. You could be busy all day. And this is the Church of St. Patrick's, Downpatrick. We have a Mass at 9 o'clock and it's in Gaelic. We've got a fluent speaker, a priest, a fluent speaker, and then at half past 10 we have the normal Mass of a speaker by St. Patrick. Most people wear the shamrock.
Christ Lum, Christ Rome, Christ Amaye, Christ Onum, Christ Fum, Christos Machion, Christ Malav Yas, Christ Malav Chley.
I think St. Patrick, as many of those stories, there are many contemporary stories as well, which can inspire us and help us on our faith journey.
For us believers, in a time when our world is changing, when things that we knew as unchangeable are changing all around us, here's somebody, the patron saint of Ireland, who was through this, very similar to what we're going through. Very different, of course, but very similar to the very things we're going through.
So essentially for me this year, St. Patrick is someone who speaks good news into the darkness and the reality of today's world. Particularly, I'm thinking this year about the situation of migrants, those who are sold into human trafficking. And I'm very conscious that Patrick, through his experience of captivity and enslavement, speaks to the margins, to the peripheries, to the edges. So from the Irish point of view, as you know, St. Patrick is hugely significant for us, but he also unites us with the Irish diaspora in many parts of the world, in Scotland and in other parts of these islands, but of course places in Australia, the United States. Tomorrow on St. Patrick's Day, we'll all be together sharing in the joy of our patron saint. But I'd like to think we're looking underneath all of the shamrocks and the shillelaghs and the Irish tunes and the beer, and we're thinking about Patrick the man, Patrick the missionary, Patrick who came to bring the good news to the ends of the earth.